Hello, I'm Jacob and you are watching the Prepper's Bunker Outdoors. I want to quickly give you my favorite knife makers of 2019. This is actually an exciting list this year because last year I did this and since then I've actually been able to acquire knives from a couple of last year's favorite makers. Now I have to clarify, this list is not comprehensive. It's just makers that pop up on my timeline a lot that I enjoy looking at and that I feel like I spend a lot of my time looking at and I've come to appreciate. So I'm going to get started with a couple of the makers whose work I have been able to obtain, and they're still on the list because I'm hoping to get more work for them. First off is Tactical Pterodactyl. His work, I would say the genre of it would be the EDC community. A lot of his designs are, I think, fairly flashy. He certainly has his own style, but a lot of his knives are 100% practical, and I like using my medium camper as a bushcrafty blade as well as an EDC as well. Just really cool work, like super unique style. And you know, I have people comment saying that the knife is not practical and it's a pry bar and this and that and the other thing. The edge is thin. The knife is slicey, it's comfortable to use. So it has this look where it looks tanky, and a lot of knives that share the style of specifically my medium camper, some of his work isn't practical, but he makes it practical. He just does good work. Bryce Scott. I actually don't have any of Bryce Scott's knives. This one that you see here is actually my dad's, and my dad picked this Skinner when I was at Blade Show as the one knife out of all of Blade Show that he wanted. Grycen caught my eye. Not only is a really young guy down in Mississippi, really cool guy, but he uses all S35 VN. He has a unique style, and his knives are very much user knives. Like, you look at them, you can tell they're custom. Fit and finish looks perfect, but they don't look really flashy. They just look like they're made to be used. And the fact that they're S35 VN and the fit and finish is so good on them, you know, he prices them to be used as well. Really, just really cool knives, a lot of tapered tangs, a lot of really nice features at a great price. The next one, Szczegot Handmade. So this is a Polish knife maker, and I found him through last year's video. I mean, he was just someone that kept popping up that I kept looking at. Maybe it was on Knife Gods. I don't exactly remember where it started, but I started watching his work more and more after my video, and he ended up sending me this Polish tracker, and he wanted me to help him kind of refine it, to look at the features and maybe give him some feedback on what he might change. It's going to be a future model. And so what I love about this is it's a tracker, but by putting the quarter round on the spine, you're not breaking your primary edge. And I think that's the biggest downfall of the more typical tracker design, is breaking your primary edge. And because I like using my full primary edge. And it shows me that the guy is thinking about the knives that he makes. He makes utilitarian knives. Once again, you know, he attracted my attention. He's on this list because he has his own style, and it's very unique. I love it. I love this knife. There are a couple of things that, I'm gonna do a video on this, there are a couple of things that I mentioned I would tweak a little bit before it goes into full production, but that's why he sent it to me. And just the fit and finish, the style, it's just, his work's just good. And it's made over in Poland. It's just cool. He's become a full-time knife maker. Really cool guy. Definitely someone you should check out. All right. Diamondback Country Knives, another maker that I met at Blade Show. Diamondback Country Knives was one of the top makers that caught my eye for fit and finish and beauty and elegance. So his knives didn't catch my eye like Bryce Scott's did as being essentially perfect users. His knives caught my eye for being like the typical custom, as in over-the-top attention to detail, but the handles and the edge geometry and the designs were very practical. Certainly user knives, but fit and finish just over the top. He was talking to me about how he book matches all of his handle scales, and how he'll go through a lot of material to find just one little piece out of a big batch that's just perfect. And like, you look at his work and you know that this guy is the type of guy who has the patience to sit down and make sure that the details are perfect. That's certainly not me, as you probably know through my videos. So really, really beautiful stuff. He's probably the highest grade fit and finish and just custom beauty maker that's on this list. And because I really appreciate that level of attention to detail, but it's typically I consider it to be out of my league, and it's not what I typically use, so it's not typically what I pay attention to. Now, his prices I think are incredibly competitive, and I just always love looking at his work. I mean, it's good. All right, one guy that should have been on last year's list but wasn't, and again, I can miss makers that I follow. I made a list because if I don't make a list, I will forget. Even though these companies, I look at them like basically every day and I follow them and I really like them, I'll just forget if I don't have a list. So the one that should have been on last year's was Wallace Edged Tools. He primarily works in CPM 3V, super utilitarian designs, beautiful fit and finish, and super unique handle scales and shapes. I love his handles. I've always loved looking at his handles. Recently I got to hold one of his knives, and it's just as good as it looks. I mean, I think it's easy when there's so many makers out there. It's easy for them to start kind of blending together, or for you to be like, I really like this knife maker. He kind of looks like these other knife makers I like as well. Every person on this list, I think, has a fairly unique style. Going from a fairly unique style to an incredibly unique style, and that's why they're on the list. And Wallace Edge Tools been around for a while, makes hard use knives, and he should have been on last year's list too. Just awesome. I've always followed him, and I'll always follow him. Let's see here. Ghostman Knives. All right, so his knives are a little bit different than everybody else on this list. These guys, I guess all of these guys are so unique. Excuse me. Ghostman, or Gossman, I apologize if I got that wrong. So his knives are a different genre of custom knives, and that is simple, straightforward designs, and he makes his knives to be just as utilitarian and bulletproof as possible. He's known for a lot of his 01 and his S7. Not a lot of people use S7, 80 CRV2, and he just makes absolutely hard use users. No frills, no fanciness that I've seen, no gimmicks, just super basic designs, full flat grinds, good edge thickness, and bomb-proof knives. For all of the knives on this list that I already own, I will at some point own another, and all of the knives on this list that I don't yet own, I at some point believe I will. I need to have one of Ghostman's knives. All right, somebody else who should have been on my list last year. It's possible actually that he was on my list, but if he wasn't, he should have been. TM Hunt. I would say he's probably most popular for his M18 but I don't think that that's his crown jewel. I think he's got a Magua and he's got a few other models, and although they aren't as groundbreaking or eye-catching or unique as the M18, they're super practical and his lines are just clean. Again, you know, just a maker with a unique style, and I really like what he does. I've been following him for, I don't know, like 5 years or something like that. It's probably a shame that I don't already own one of his knives. I haven't already invested, but it's just how life goes. Really good stuff. And we're gonna wrap it up with Sargent edged tools. Now, every company that I've had on this list, let's see, Tactical Pterodactyl is, I would say, in the EDC genre. Pretty much everybody, okay, Diamondback Country Knives is in like the premium user genre, it's like a piece of jewelry user genre. And then I think, in my opinion, Wallace edged tools, Szczegot Handmade, Bryce Scott, Gossman, and TM Hunt, they're all a little in a similar genre. I'd say they're all in the same genre, but they all do things different and target some different sector of the genre, but they're all kind of utility, survival, hard use knives. Sargent edged tools is unique on this list because he's the only bushcraft maker on this list. That's pretty much that's what he does. Now, of course, that still means it's a utilitarian knife. That still means it's an outdoors knife, but it's a little bit of its own specific genre. And what he does that's really cool, he uses some really thin stock thickness. I think like 0.07 A2 and some other steels and stuff. And that's really cool. It's a pain in the butt to work with stock that's that thin. And in my opinion, that's really the only place that a Scandi grind belongs, is on a knife with really thin stock thickness. Because when you put it on a knife with thicker stock thickness, to me, it just doesn't do the same thing. The Scandi grind, I do not believe it's a gimmick. A lot of people do, and a lot of people are yelling at their screen right now. A lot of people do believe it's a gimmick. I do not believe it's a gimmick, but I believe that you need to look at the knives that traditionally use it, how they were made, and the knives that use it the best. And they are all really thin. And when you put it on a 3/16 of an inch thick stock thickness or 1/4 inch, I think you lose any strengths that the Scandi grind had while piling its weaknesses up and piling the issues that it has up. So Sargent edged tools does really cool super light bushcraft knives. I'm a really big fan of his. I'll say that his work is unique, but someone who's not on my list who I think is very similar to him is Two Arrow Knives. I follow him and I like him as well quite a bit. But Sargent edged tools, I really like what he does with a lot of his handles. So anyways, I'm not gonna put any links to my stuff in the description box below. The description box below is going to be filled with how you can find and follow these makers. They are my favorite makers of 2019. If you think that I should have included another maker, let me know. This is not an exhaustive list, and I have no doubt that as soon as I publish this video, I'll be kicking myself because I'll remember somebody else, or someone will mention in the comment section, what about this guy? And I'm like, I've been following that guy forever. He's like my... That's how it works. But if you're not familiar with anybody on this list, make sure to follow them. You will like their work. Thank you for watching. I look forward to talking to you in the comment section below. I love talking custom knives, so hit me up. And I hope that you have a blessed day.